What I like to do on Mondays, because it's necessary, a lot of feelings out there. I think oftentimes far too many feelings. So I do something called overreactions versus reality. And this addresses the fans, the media, coaches, players that are over their skis. Everyone that needs a dose of reality, everyone who's overreacting, a prisoner of the moment that needs a dose of reality. So this one is, there's a lot of water that needs to be poured on some things. People need to cool out. Overreaction. A weekend of college football upsets, and that's to say the least, obviously. But a weekend of college football upsets will turn the college football playoff upside down. That's what everybody thinks. That's what a lot of people are saying. That's an overreaction. The reality. No, not likely. Probably not. No. Probably going to be just like it was, almost just like it was before this past weekend. Here's the thing. In fact, there's going to be very little change, I think, I would predict. Now, follow me. Alabama was, a 22.5 point favorite over Vanderbilt. They lost. The goalpost ended up in the river. It's pretty cool. So did Tennessee at Arkansas. So did ninth-ranked Missouri at A&M, and they got their face kicked in at Kyle Field. The SEC, okay, the reaction is, look, if you're a fan of a team one way or another, you're going to react. But long-term effect of this past weekend is going to be very little. It really is. That playoff is probably not going to change much at all. So the SEC, it's a rigged tournament, everyone. It's built by two networks to get exactly who they want in by some goofball committee. Sorry, brands matter. Matter too much, but brands matter. So the SEC will most likely get in 4 teams and possibly 5 into the 12-team tournament. The rigged tournament. And I think it's going to increasingly be more rigged. So Alabama, unless they fall completely on their face, which is hard to believe you can fall more on your face than losing at Vanderbilt, they would have to lose at least 2 more games. And then we could start reacting to they're not in the tournament. Even then, I'm not completely convinced a goofball committee whose only mandate is to put the teams in ESPN and Fox want. I'm not even sure then they would be out. So, yeah. It's shocking that what happened to Alabama. Yes. But in the grand scheme of the things, it's not going to matter much. Alabama, Georgia are going to be in. There. Done. And I mean, that's it'd take 3 losses at least to get the big brands out. That's Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. It would take 3 losses to get the big brands out. I don't care how shocking the losses are. That tournament's not going on without those big brands. That's what it's about now. So they're in the tournament, whether they win the league or not. The question is, now the question going forward, if you once you get past the feelings, reacting to upsets and weird games and all that stuff, but the question is, what's going to happen with spots 4 and 5 in the SEC? That's the question. That's the real battle. And this is going to be the way it is going forward. It's a network-driven tournament now with big brands. That's the goal. The question is going to be those other spots. And so 4 and 5 is that's an interesting race because of the Aggies. They just made it interesting, which is really cool for a change. So 4 and 5 could be A&M, it could be Ole Miss, or even Missouri, although it doesn't seem that likely. That's not a brand. An ACC winner is in. Got it? There's one. Big 12 winner is in. There's another. That's it. Those leagues are not getting in other teams because the tournament doesn't want them. So there's 2. You're going to get an at-large non-Power 5 might be in. That likely is Boise State, but that's not for certain. The Big Ten is a little bit more of a question mark even than the SEC. The Big Ten gets in 3 for sure, big brands. All from this day forward, whenever you want to default to your knowledge about this 12-team tournament, just understand these networks are going to want, and that goofball committee, having bagels, coffee, and outside cigarettes is always going to defer and make sure these big brands are in the tournament. So the Big Ten is going to get Ohio State. It's going to get Oregon. It's probably going to get Penn State. And then maybe the fourth, the question mark is the fourth. And it might even be Indiana. Nobody really wants them, but they might deserve it. And that's it. So the overreaction is, oh, things are upside down. The reality is, no, they're not upside down at all. The tournament really isn't affected at all. The A&M Missouri game at Kyle Field has a greater impact on the tournament than Vanderbilt beating Alabama, than Arkansas beating Tennessee. The battle is 4-5 in the SEC. So the reality is chaos might be in the short term. No, it is in the short term. But the tournament it's pretty much fixed. Yeah. And I think increasingly so. Reality. Yeah. Absolute reality. Texas A&M just got its most important win in years. I'll say at least 5, but it could be 10 or more. No, 5 to 7. They beat 9th-ranked Missouri. They didn't just beat 9th-ranked Missouri. Here's why it matters more, in my opinion. A&M did exactly what it needed to, and they did it in the exact way they needed to do it. They didn't win a game 21-17. They put up 41 points at home against a 9th-ranked team. They didn't struggle. They didn't get stuck in quicksand. Their offense was on fire. There's so many reasons why that program needed that game, and I know you're going to say, well, it's Missouri. Hey, it's a 9th-ranked team. A&M's program, I said it on Friday, needs some good stuff to happen to it. It's an offense that needed good things to happen to it, and they got it. A&M goes as far as their quarterback goes. Done. They go as far as their quarterback goes. And Connor Wigman, who I didn't think was going to start, who took some guts for Mike Elko to start him, it worked, man. Mike Elko's first year, he had his first big test, his second big challenge, got beat by Notre Dame at home. But when he had a chance to make a difference, he took a difficult call, made it, and it worked. It worked. They scored 41 points. They need Connor Wigman to be their quarterback. They need him to take that job and play to his potential. He did it on Saturday. They needed momentum. They got it. They needed offensive firepower. They got it. Everything that program needed, they got on Saturday. And yeah, I think it's a big deal. I said on Friday, they're in their own head. These games against quality opponents, against ranked opponents, we'll forget Texas for a second. That's a different level of psychotic problems. But they've been in their own head, and they needed to get out, and I think this was it. A big win done the right way for a program that needed out of its own head. And I think this might do it. It should do it. Now, of course, we've learned you can turn around and fall flat on your face. But for now, it's exactly what they needed. The next discussion is going to be, the freak out, the issues with Texas and all that stuff. But that's a long way away. They needed this now, and it worked. That's reality. Overreaction. Aaron Rodgers is finished. That's it. He's Robert Kennedy Jr.'s running mate forever. Done. Football's over. It's all anti-Fauci, all ayahuasca all the time. He's finished. You know what? I got to say this. On an overreaction scale, maybe we need a scale, like a chart. Remember that thing of The Price is Right? What was that game called where he goes, what is that called, Brandon? That they still have that, or is that when Bob Barker was around? It goes up. There's a washer and dryer, and it goes up, and you get to pick the range and the price.
Yeah, they still do that. I can't remember what that's. It might just be called the range game.
The range game,
something like that.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Could you throw together like a range game for overreaction and have it look cool?
Could you give that a shot?
Okay, let's get right to that. Yeah, get some lights and stuff. Who knows if it's accurate? It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't even know if why they never got the washer and dryer price. I don't even know I don't know how far was the range, like $500 or something.
Well, they switched it up now. It's mainly about food products, grocery products.
That's silly.
Yeah, so there's not
That's
much.
stupid.
You don't get those appliances much anymore unless it's in the showcase.
Yeah, that's too bad. Well, we're going to do that for an overreaction scale because Aaron Rodgers being finished, and I don't think it's going to be the only time this year the overreaction is, see, he's finished. That old guy with the beard, he's got the gray beard going on. On the scale, I think it's moderate to light. I do. I'd love to pile on the guy because I think he's a jackass, but I think it's moderate to light in the scale of he's finished, an overreaction scale. Things aren't good. They're not. But I'm not doing that today. I'm not saying he's finished. The reality is he is not finished. Now, it's not a good look, and that trajectory seems to be climbing in that direction. Only, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. hadn't mailed it in and said, I'm going all in on Trump and anti-vax scam, whatever he's going to run, I'd say, Aaron Rodgers could sort of find his way out of this deal. But he's kind of disappeared, fallen off the map. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to try to make a go of it. I thought he said the right things this past weekend after a miserable performance again. You're not getting diva. You're not getting the ultimate diva Aaron Rodgers yet. You're not getting the crying Aaron Rodgers yet. So I think he's still in. They scored 9 points a week ago against the Broncos. This past weekend, they scored 17 against the Vikings. That's 2 losses in a row. And it was only the 6th time in his career, that's 236 games, that he's thrown 3 interceptions in a game. That by itself is pretty remarkable. Look, he's the first, no matter what he does, no matter what flip out he does, no matter how many times he mentions Fauci and vaccines and blah, 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 he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He could quit tomorrow. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think he's stopping now. He had 3 picks against Minnesota. It was a brutal and costly pick 6 also. They were ugly interceptions. It was stuff you might see out of someone else. So there's reason to be concerned. There's reason to watch closely. There's reason to say, let's see if he decides to go in that dark room again. All that stuff is in play. I just don't think he's mailing it in. I didn't get that vibe at all. They're 2-3. He now has a bad ankle on top of everything else. Don't know how bad off that's going to be, but he got hurt again. So he now has a losing record after 5 games for the 3rd time in 20 years. And that team is too good to be where they are. He's too good to be where they are. It's a bad look. The path doesn't feel very promising. 2 bad weeks in a row, it leaves a different taste than only scoring 9 on the Broncos. I don't think he's done. I don't think the Jets are done. But here's the thing. 1 or 2 more losses, okay? They start circling the drain, and he starts to feel embarrassed. And if he feels embarrassed, or he feels slighted, or if he feels like things aren't going his way, the recent history is for this guy to throw his team under the bus and make up story that he's got something he'd rather be doing. They're not there yet. He's not there yet. That it's only 1 or 2 losses away. Reality, he's not done. Overreaction. The Cowboys win over the Pittsburgh Steelers at 4 o'clock this morning. I don't even know when it ended. But the Cowboys win over the Steelers was meh. It was a meh win. That's an overreaction. Oh, it was ugly, Jeff. It was just meh. No. Reality. Reality is, stylistically, yeah, it was meh. It didn't look so good. But let me put it in perspective how important that win was, how much pressure was built upon that win on the road at Pittsburgh. I'm not saying Pittsburgh is exactly the Chiefs or the Ravens, not arguing that. What I'm saying is the context of that game on the road meant a lot more. Let me set this up. Dallas is 3-0 on the road. What used to be a terrible road team is 3-0 on the road. I know. It's not the greatest teams. I get it. But there's a reason why this game was really, really important for them. They won this game without their best two defensive players. Not many teams can pull that off. They only scored 20 points. But again, I hate to go old school on you. It always proves the absolute reality, and that is defense and kicking wins on the road. Defense and kicking wins, period. It really does. Dallas is alive. A loss last night in Pittsburgh, and we could start that thing. They're circling the drain. But they're alive. They've got a Washington problem, though. And they've held the Washington problem off slightly for another week. That win over Pittsburgh last night just didn't leave them chasing Washington just yet. It keeps them in the game. One of the hottest teams in the league with the hottest quarterback in the league. And here's why the Dallas win was not meh. Okay? 3-0 on the road. They needed that win desperately. And they got it in a lucky way at times. Dak Prescott recovering a fumble and Dak Prescott closing the deal in a win. I mean, that was on him. That's why you pay him the money, and I think he delivered. They had to get that win because Detroit comes to Dallas after a week off. Did they lose that game, Dallas? Yeah, probably. So a loss at Pittsburgh, and then Washington is running off and leaving them already. Dallas would have been 2-4, and we'd be talking about them getting left to maybe battle the Giants for the bottom. So 2-4 is a completely different world than 3-2 because Washington leaves them behind. So they now have a stretch. This is why that game last night against Pittsburgh was so important, just to win. I don't care who they played last night. They had to have a win. Here's what Dallas has now, and I think you can make a case all 6 of their opponents are playoff teams, but at worst case, 5 of the 6 are playoff teams here on out. And this is without Dallas with 2 of their best defensive players. All right? Let's see. They get Detroit and Dallas, with Detroit having a week off. 49ers on the road. The Falcons on the road. The Eagles in Dallas. Houston in Dallas. And Houston is going to break out. It's going to happen. Houston is you can feel it setting up. They're so good on defense, so good at kicking. Their offense just hasn't kicked in. And when it does, look out. They are primed for a roll. So they get Houston and Dallas after Detroit, the 49ers, Falcons, Eagles, Houston, and then they play Washington on the road. That's why they had to have a win last night. There was no meh about it. At best, what do you think Dallas does? At best, in that stretch, that 6-game stretch, what do you think they do? They go 3-3? That's pretty good. I wouldn't bet on 3-3, would you? They could easily be 2-4. They could be 1-5 in that stretch. And it is a brutal stretch of games that completely defines their season. At the end of when Dallas walks off the field having played Washington, after this 6-game stretch, you know, if the Belichick watch is fully on, if Mike McCarthy is toast, you're going to know all those answers when Dallas walks off that field at Washington at the end of this 6 weeks. The 6-week stretch. So they had to have that game. They had to have that game against Pittsburgh.